All right, everybody, here we go. My name's Tom Riome. I'm chairman of the Public Works Committee. I used to be. Finance and Property Committee. After all them years, I got used to this change, so excuse my mistake there. We're meeting on Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021. It's 4:35. We're in the council chambers at City Hall here in Wisconsin Rapids. With that, I'll go around the room for people to introduce themselves.
Shane Blazer, Mayor, I guess.
Kyle Kearns, Director of Community Development.
And Jennifer Gossick, the clerk's in the audience.
Tim DeSorsi, Finance Director.
Jay Bemke, committee member.
Jake Klinkfors, staff.
Jake Cattown, committee member.
Thank you all, and we have a couple in the audience too. So with that, we'll get started here. I call the meeting to order. Item 2, consider for approval a temporary retail Class B fermented malt beverages and Class B wine license for Friends of Rapids Music Incorporated, 441 2nd Street South, for the premises as outlined on the map provided within Robinson Park for Friends of Rapids Music 5th Annual Music Festival to be held on September 11th, 2021 from noon to 9 p.m. Ladies back there, would you like to come up to the mic here and say anything? I don't. Press the button there by the microphone in the front there.
Now it is.
Yeah. Tell us about the event a little bit. And
Sure. This would be our 5th annual Friends of Rapids Music Festival. We couldn't have it last year because of COVID. We have live music that starts at noon and goes until 9, all different kinds of bands. Most of them are local, but our headliner comes in this year from Michigan. They're a nationally touring band. We also have food, beverages. We have something new this year is called our FRM Kids Zone, where we have all kinds of activities for kids. Most of them are music-related activities like guitar and ukulele sing-alongs, and an arts and crafts tent where they can make their own little drums and hand percussion and things like that. And kids karaoke, kids place where they can dance to music and stuff like that. And we're also having a Native American dance troupe come in to do Native American dancing. That's all in the kids zone. So anyway, that's what it is. It's a day-long festival of music, bringing community and music together. And we're told that people have a really great time, and it's all free. And so it's just kind of a gift that we give to the community. Our organization supports musicians and music teachers and live music venues and things like that. So anything that's music related, we're usually involved here in Rapids.
all right, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions about it? This is their 5th year of doing it, and everything's gone all right in the past.
Yeah, we've never had any problems
Yeah.
or issues.
Okay. With that, I'll move for approval for the request here for the Friends of Music Festival on September 5th.
Second.
The motion is second to approve this. There's no further questions by the committee. I'll call for approval. All those in favor respond by aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. There you go.
All right, thank you.
Have a good time.
Thanks.
Item number 3, selection of consultant for the Wisconsin Rapids Recovery and Redevelopment Plan. Kyle?
Thank you, Chairman. So I provided a memo that outlines the redevelopment plan, which is funded by the EDA grant that we received earlier this year and the WEDC grant, which serves as the match for a total project cost of $180,000. And this plan is for the recovery and redevelopment of what would be the Verso Mill site and areas surrounding the mill. And so it looks at 2 components, really. You have the the recovery plan, which looks at the market, the industries, the economy, it looks at jobs, trends in all of those different sectors. And then you have the actual geographic regional plan or site-specific plan that would be created out of this project. So there's really two components, and after we were awarded the funds, we released an RFP. We received 10 responses, and we interviewed 4 of the 10. I do have a summary of the 10 that we reviewed, or 10 responses that were received, and I do want to note that the individual companies that were reviewed or went through the interview process were Vanderwall and Associates, Grafe, Tip Strategies, and Foth. And the last interview was conducted yesterday, and all 4 interviewees were very qualified to do the job. However, I think we did agree, the selection committee and I agreed on one that stood out, and that would be Vanderwall and Associates. The reason being is that their team is made up of the former operations manager, Don Guay, for Verso, so they certainly have some experience with regards to the operations of the mill. They also worked on the Domtar mill in terms of the redevelopment project that occurred back in 2013 through, I think, up to 2015. They also include as part of their team a member of WISC, which is the Wisconsin Institute for Sustainable Technologies. So from an industry standpoint, how the paper industry is changing and perhaps, how they can make recommendations to bring in a different product at the facility or what the market looks like in the pulp and paper industry regionally. So we thought those were the strengths of Vanderwall, and that's why we would ultimately recommend Vanderwall to this committee. And with also honorable mentions being Tip Strategies and Grafe. We also thought they did well, but perhaps not as much of that expertise in the industry, the paper industry, as well as the experience within other paper mills and similar projects throughout the region. With that being said, I'd be happy to share more information or answer any questions that you have.
Any questions by anybody? Jake?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if I were to look for just further detail on this, is there reading materials that are out there or that we could get sent?
So the memo exists that I wrote for the packet. The RFP is available. I think it's still on our website regarding the project. We brought this forward through, I think it was Property and Finance, during the application process, and thereafter the award was granted. And again, I think we'd possibly come back when we have a contract with the selected consultant as well. In terms of any of the submitted responses, we've got copies in our office. If you'd like to review the responses, the 10 responses or the 4 that we did actual phone interviews with, I'd be happy to share them. I'd be happy to answer any other questions. I do note that in the memo, the selection committee was made up of myself, a member of the chamber, so Angel Whitehead with the Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce, Dennis Lawrence out of the North Central Regional Plan Commission office, and a member of Wood County, Jason Grunberg, with the County Economic Development Office.
Kyle, was there some type of grading system that you used through this then?
We did, yeah. So within the RFP, we graded on a number of factors, and then we had points assigned to each of those. Those include past record of performance, quality and content of response, technical competence, knowledge of area and industry, familiarity of project, problem, and alternatives, understanding and strategy, timeline to complete, and cost. Cost was a smaller component. The biggest, the most important in terms of those review criteria, I think, were past record of performance, so experience that the firm has with similar projects, and then the strategy and understanding or project approach that they were going to be taken with this. and all of the 10 were ranked based on those criterias by each member of the selection committee. Those rankings are summarized here, which I can hand out, and you can see the top firms.
You can have mine, Cal.
And then we selected the top 4 interviews. And there was a list of about 6 questions during the phone interviews that each consultant received. And then we actually met at 3 o'clock this afternoon, the selection committee and myself, to discuss ultimately who we thought was the strongest of the interviewees. And again, Van de Waal came out on top for the reasons previously mentioned. The EDA places high importance on fair and competitive selection for consultants, and they have a pretty thorough set of criteria that you have to meet when you're selecting a consultant for an EDA-funded or any federally funded project. So record keeping is very important, and we've been keeping records of all of our responses, the selection committee's responses, dates, times for the interviews, participants in the interview, in the event that this would ever get audited, citing that the competitive statute and the federal guidelines that we have all the information necessary to prove that we've fairly selected a consultant.
What will be the, I guess, the first thing that this organization will do? How will they get going, or what will they be doing?
So I think the first couple steps will be meeting with stakeholders and setting up public charrettes in terms of engaging the public and obtaining feedback regarding the history of the mill, the uses of the mill. While they're doing that, I think they'll also start pulling data on the industry, the economy locally, regionally, and they'll look at trends in other industries. I think it'll be a pretty comprehensive study from that side of things. And then once they've obtained that information and a lot of the feedback, they might do some surveying as well. They will then start actually creating a physical document or plan outlining areas of redevelopment, how the site could be redeveloped, whether it's in its entire capacity or different components of it, regarding, the converting operations there, PM16, the pulping operations, and that's where we found a lot of value in the experience that Van de Waal could bring because of the relationship we have with Verso, which is not as intimate, I think, as we'd like it to be at this point. And so having a team member on staff that has that intimate knowledge of the mill operations, I think, can provide a lot of good information to the plan and the project as it's constructed, and that's where, again, we thought that Van de Waal really stood out.
Nothing like this usually happens overnight, but what is, supposing that the mill would be sold and started, would that do anything to this then?
So if the mill is sold, this project will continue. We understand that, right, we have no control over private sale. However, the mill could sell, and again, one or multiple of the components of the mill could continue operation, which if 200 acres of, let's say, I think pulping operations on the north end, if they're no longer operating, that could be a redevelopment site. So then what's in place for us to take a proactive approach to redevelop the site? And I think we would have this plan that we could cite to start looking at, right, maybe funding options if it's considered a brownfield site, to look at maybe where we can connect with other industries that align well with the paper industry from an economic development standpoint. So at the end of the day, this could be a plan if Verso sells and they operate the entire facility this could be a plan that's implemented very limited, right? So it could be something that has a ton of implementation depending on what happens with the mill, or something that we maybe don't have to reference if it does sell. The key component here is that I had asked in the RFP process and when we applied for the grant, that this also includes some areas surrounding the mill property, as we do have some vacant, underutilized sites in and around the downtown adjacent to Verso property. And I think we can hopefully rope those properties in as well. So even if the mill does develop or sell and operate in its full capacity, we could still possibly use some of the goals and objectives from this plan to focus on those other redevelopment sites.
Dean, did you have something there? Okay. Oh, Jake?
So when we get to the stage where we're looking to make a contract with Vanderwall, are we going to be able to put in there that that team member who has the expertise and knowledge of the Verso mill stays with them during the contract?
I think we would have that option. Typically, what happens is they will cite their response as an attachment to the contract, and it's pretty clear that, you know, those members are project team members. I think they're serving in a consultant capacity. I don't think they're actually employees of Vanderwall, but they've made it very clear on the interview that they will be part of the project throughout its entirety. But yes, if it meant adding a line item in the contract, I will make a note of that, and I will see to it that we do so.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. Not that that would change Vanderwall compared to any of the other top consultants. However, I just think that's a really valuable piece for us. And I don't know the gentleman, but if he's not at Verso now and he's just doing consulting, what happens if he moves on to do something else again? Do we then lose that valuable piece that was a huge part of the selection process? I just wouldn't want to see that. So I think it's good if we could get that in the contract, that we see him on
Sure.
the project throughout.
Anybody else have any questions or anything for Kyle? Then committee, I'll turn it back over to us. What would your wishes be?
So I'll make a motion to approve Vanderwall as the consultant.
I have a motion and second to approve Vanderwald. And if there's no further discussion by the committee, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you all. And item 4, Alderperson Catnaw's request to review the financials to date for the Aquatic Center. And I guess with that, I'll start with Tim.
Sure. I handed out to the committee the revenue side of the aquatic center to date. Right now, I hesitate trying to compare the revenues to the expenditures just because of the timing differences, and I don't want misleading, operating type subsidy or profit to be misleading because, like for instance, we only have the utility bills through July 2nd. Obviously, we have an entire month, so we have not received those bills. So compare it with, year-to-date or month-to-date revenues be kind of misleading. So, but just to kind of, to honor the request, I thought, I would just kind of put together the revenues. This comes out of our Sportsman software, and that's the software they have down there when they make the sales for either seasonal passes or day passes and stuff. It gets in there, so we were able to print some reports just to give you an idea of kind of the different types of passes that are being sold and the numbers and the revenue that it's generating. So I can go through that if you want. Just kind of, just for season pass sales, we've sold a total of 280 resident season passes for $32,880. For non-resident, 69 of those seasonal passes for non-resident have been sold. $15,610 being generated. Then we also have the veteran seasonal pass, and 64 of those been sold. So basically, total season passes to date have been 413, and that generated $51,900 of revenue. Then we also have the punch pass sales, and basically what this is that residents can buy a punch pass which for $20, which includes 5 daily admissions. So that's kind of the response to, right now we have daily passes. There's no resident, non-resident rate. It's just $7 for whatever, but residents have the option to purchase the punch pass at a reduced rate and take advantage of that resident rate. We've sold 467 of those. Then the last category is daily pass sales, and that's where people just walk up, pay the admission to get in. We've sold 15,765 daily passes for 108,000. So to date, and this would be through August 2nd, total admissions revenues generated have been $169,472. And then also I have some other categories there. We have concession revenues of $58,305. So that's all our concession sales we have there. Shelter and cabana rentals, $7,795 of revenue. And then our program revenue to our various programs that we have down there, swim lessons, water walking, those things, we've generated $2,959. So gross revenue to date is $238,531.50 in total revenues. Now, once we kind of get where, once the aquatic season passes and we get all our expenses in and, the time and effort to close the facility down, we'll go through these numbers again. We'll generate where then we can look at the expenditure side of this, and then we can do a kind of a complete financial look at, the aquatics operating, since really this year was the first normal operating season that we'll get a good idea, of some of the trends that we'll be able to use and incorporate into the 2022 budget.
Thank you. Any questions? Jake?
Thank you. Yeah, I brought this up because I wanted to go over it. I was hoping to see expenditures, but I do understand that it's the middle of the season and wait till the end. So I'll look forward to seeing them compared to each other in October. When we do get that data, if we could see how many times the the season passes are scanned for the family passes. I mean, a general theme of what I'm trying to see here is just what price to value the residents are getting out of their uses. And punch passes, we know how many are on per card. They're 5, so that one's easy to figure out. But how much for family passes for residents are we getting? And then the one number that really stuck out to me, and that I was glad to see here, was that the regular daily pass was purchased 15,765 times for a total of 108,000 in revenue, which I think is huge. I talked to a few of you about my concern that residents get the best possible rate at the aquatic center because of what we're paying on our tax bills as well. And I think this may be a reflection of that, being that I would see most residents probably purchasing a punch pass because that's such a good value, and then non-residents having to purchase the daily passes. And I just think this is a message out there, too, to the surrounding communities that this is really the first year we've went over this. We were open last year, but COVID restrictions. And, I mean, this is a big number that your residents are paying that you could be a part of the aquatic center and get resident rates, as we've discussed in the past. I'm sure that's still on the table. But I'm glad to see this. I'm looking forward to seeing the expenses in October and seeing how it all lines up, in my opinion. But as long as we're not operating in the red, I think this is a good thing, especially with all the value that it brings. So I was glad to see these numbers. Thank you for putting them together.
And I say thank you too, Tim, and we'll be waiting until, everything's all, the season is done and everything's closed and buttoned up and all the numbers get put together and whatever, and see where we're all at with everything and put it, everything's income and expenses put together and see where we're all at, and look at the budget for what we have to do for next year, what we have to adjust or not.
I think concessions revenue seems decent. I don't know. What do you think on that, Tim? Do you think it's a pretty good number? Or?
I mean, it's hard to say because, obviously, it's far exceeding what we had last year, but because I think that was kind of the restriction on COVID, maybe people just were hesitant to, purchase concessions. But when we looked at that number, it's just like, the revenue of 58,000, and it included, that's the sale of, various items, but the total items sold so far was like 21,000. So they're going through a lot of product there.
Anybody else? With that, the audit of the bills, did everybody get a chance to look at it, at them to their desire? What number of checks did we have here? Yeah.
9,200 to 9,625.
Nobody found anything to raise a question on. I would make a motion to accept the audit of the bills. Committee, if there's no further questions, all those in favor of that, respond by aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. With that, we're to item number 6, and that is a motion to adjourn. Anybody so wishes. Second that, all those in favor of adjourning, respond by aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. The meeting's adjourned at 5:02, I guess. Thank you, everybody.